Hogwarts will always be there to welcome you home. But will it really? What if things aren't as they seem? Today, we'll take you on a journey and explore 10 really weird Harry Potter theories. The last one will really make you rethink how you see the wizarding world. Don't forget to subscribe to The Things and give this video a thumbs up. Now let's check out some weird Harry Potter theories. Dumbledore's manipulative AF. Let's start with an observation plenty of people seem to have gotten when reading or watching Harry Potter. We learned a lot of things about Dumbledore over the years, but many people have seen his behavior in a different light. For example, a Redditor explained how Dumbledore is actually a very flawed and manipulative character. For example, Dumbledore used Snape's love for Lily to protect Harry. Everyone always talks about Harry having Lily's eyes, but that's exactly how Dumbledore managed to manipulate Snape into helping Harry. But it wasn't just Snape. He also pretty much manipulated Harry to get Slughorn back at Hogwarts without even telling him anything about the position he'll be teaching at. This Redditor also states that it was particularly Dumbledore's fault Sirius passed away. If you think about it, Dumbledore knew Snape and Harry didn't get along and that their occlumency lessons wouldn't be as successful. It was one of Dumbledore's biggest mistakes. And let's not forget that he kept Draco at Hogwarts even though he knew exactly what Draco was up to in the first place. While it's clear that Dumbledore did a lot of things out of love, theorists also note that he might have had a different, more manipulative agenda. Horcruxes are even more evil than you thought. This theory is pretty insane. We all know the Horcruxes are already evil, but this theory states that they're even more crazy than we thought. Did you notice that every time Horcruxes are mentioned, someone talks about evil magic? Even J.K. Rowling stated that the process of making a Horcrux is too horrible to actually go into detail about. And since we've seen pretty much all the horrible things in the books, there's only a few left. In order to prepare the vessel from the Horcrux, people must die. But we don't actually know anything about the dark magic that prepares said vessel, and nothing about the spell that must be performed to move the fragments of the person's soul into the vessel. So how does it all work, really? This theory states that the process of making a Horcrux involves cannibalism. Of course, Harry's case was an exception, but considering just how horrible this ritual is, it's pretty possible that the evil process of creating a Horcrux involves some kind of cannibalism. It makes sense, right? Arthur Weasley was cursed. This is one of the saddest theories ever. This theory comes from a blog called skelkins.com, and we really recommend you read the entire thing. But in short, this Harry Potter fan is convinced that Arthur is actually under the Imperious Curse at some point during Voldemort's reign. We know that the Imperious Curse was a real issue back in the day, and it caused a lot of headaches for the Ministry. One of the points of this theory is that the Death Eaters actually targeted younger Ministry officials as a part of their operation. Voldemort's crew always took advantage of younger and more vulnerable workers. This is particularly evident in Ludo Bagman's trial. But in Goblet of Fire, Crouch, aka Moody, also tells Ron that the Imperious Curse gave the Ministry a lot of trouble at the time. When Voldemort was on the rise, Arthur would have been a fairly young worker, which means he could definitely be the target of Death Eater's curse. This theory comes with plenty of other points, so we really recommend you to have a read over at skelkins.com. Hallucinations. This is a pretty popular theory, but it really does change the way we see the entire story. It states that Harry simply imagined and hallucinated the entire thing. The theory states that Harry is an abused child, who's also pretty much emotionally neglected. We've seen how the Dursleys treat him and how excited he was every time he got a Christmas present. And remember the moment when Hagrid rescued Harry from the Dursleys? Psychologists state that this is known as fantasy coping. Victims of abuse are known to create alternate realities in order to cope with the abuse they're facing. But this theory gets even more surreal. It states that the abuse can also be seen in the so-called Hogwarts hospital. Harry's friends usually get treated for far less serious things, but he seems to get broken arms, cracked skulls, and he's constantly in for life-threatening situations. So could it be that Harry has actually subconsciously created this magical world, but he's actually still living in the cupboard under the stairs? It's a scary thought, especially if you think about how many times he ended up in that hospital. Childhood definitely ruined. The other chosen one. So we all know Harry and Neville have a lot of things in common, but one thing that always bugs fans is the unexplainable reason why Neville's broomstick was acting strange during his first flying lesson. The explanation is pretty simple. Neville is clumsy, and he kicked his feet off the ground before Madam Hooch blew the whistle. Well, at least in the books, because he kicks off after the whistle blow in the movies. Because Neville didn't know how to fly a broomstick just yet, it went out of control. But this theory states that it's not just Neville's clumsiness that made the broomstick go crazy. According to some fans, it was Quirrell's fault. We all have seen Quirrell bewitch Harry's broom during Quidditch. But we also know he's read the prophecy, and at that time, it wasn't clear whether Neville or Harry was the chosen one. So what if Quirrell was the one that actually jinxed Neville's broomstick, and then used the exact same trick on Harry? If Quirrell was really responsible for the broomstick accident, Neville was pretty lucky that all he got was a broken wrist. Imagine the story without Neville. Although this theory was never confirmed, it's pretty believable. A werewolf. This theory is all about Draco Malfoy. The entire theory can be found at DracoMalfoyIsAWerewolf.com, and we bet you've already guessed what this theory is about by now. According to some fans, Draco is actually a werewolf. There are plenty of statements that support this theory, including the fact that in the actual books, we never see Draco's dark mark that would indicate he's actually a part of Voldemort's crew. We also know that Fenrir Greyback, a bloodthirsty werewolf, was actually a family friend. We also see Draco looking sickly in Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince. According to this theory, it's because Fenrir actually bit Draco as a punishment for Lucius Malfoy's repeated failures. And of course, then there's the fact that Narcissa Malfoy, a devoted Voldemort supporter, turned on him at the final moment. The theorists state that this made no sense unless someone she loved was no longer welcome in the Pureblood Order, and her love for Draco was stronger than her loyalty to Voldemort. This theory would definitely change a few things. However, it turned out to be false when Pottermore finally released more backstory about Draco and how he indeed was a Death Eater and not a werewolf. Immortal. Seriously, this theory is pretty impressive. Remember the prophecy where Trelawney states that neither Harry nor Voldemort can live while the other survives. We all just assumed that Harry is just destined to be destroyed by Voldemort. But Imgur user HP Wombat interpreted the prophecy in another way. If either Harry or Voldemort can't really survive at the hand of the other, that means that the one to survive is actually immortal as a result too. So yes, Harry could be immortal, but there's an even darker part to this theory. We always see Harry's parents present in the final series. It's clearly seen that there is an afterlife available for Harry where he'd be reunited with his parents. But if this theory is true, and if Harry is in fact immortal, it means that he actually sacrificed his death for Voldemort's passing, which also means that he will never ever have the opportunity to see his family or any loved ones that have passed in afterlife. And considering he doesn't even have the Elder Wand since he broke it, he's pretty much stuck being alive whether he likes it or not. Now that's a theory that will really ruin your childhood. Harry and Ginny. Harry and Ginny were probably one of the most unusual couples ever, despite the fact that Ginny had a crush on Harry long before he noticed that she's anything more than Ron's sister. That's precisely what this theory is about. As much as people seem to have loved Harry and Ginny, and they did turn out to be the endgame, some fans seem to think that Ginny administered a love potion to Harry. If you think about it, Harry was always indifferent to Ginny, but everything changed in the Half-Blood Prince part of the series. We've seen Romilda Vane use a love potion before, and Merope Gaunt also used this technique to make Tom Riddle fall in love with her. So could it be that this was the reason why Harry suddenly started taking interest in Ginny? If you remember, J.K. Rowling described it as a roaring creature inside of Harry. But isn't it strange how Harry never even noticed Ginny in a romantic way before this? Imagine if Ginny actually did use a love potion to make Harry fall in love with her. This would have definitely turned things around, and we're really not sure we'll ever be ready for this theory to be true. Ron is Dumbledore. One of the weirdest, but probably most common Harry Potter theories out there is the one where Ron is actually a time-traveling Dumbledore. This theory is old, like 2004 old. The theory first came out from the wizard's chess scene in the very first Harry Potter series, where Ron plays as a knight and the king. That's exactly what Dumbledore is in the greater wizarding war to come. According to the theory, Ron and Dumbledore share a lot of similarities, including one where Dumbledore's Christmas wish is a pair of warm socks. And of course, let's not forget about the fact that Dumbledore left Ron with a really unexpected item after his passing. This theory is actually pretty long, but if you haven't yet experienced it, it's a must-read for any Harry Potter fanatic. What do you think? Could Dumbledore really be Ron? This theory was actually debunked by J.K. Rowling herself, but she did admit that they open exhilarating new vistas of possibility. But that possibility quickly closes when you realize that this would mean Dumbledore actually liked Hermione. Nope, nope, nope. The Muggles won. One of perhaps the most unknown but very interesting and extremely dark theories out there came from Reddit. Redditor Celeritas365 shared an interesting perspective on the wizarding world and said that the wizards already had a war with the Muggles and unfortunately, the Muggles won. The Reddit user argues the statement with several points. In the 4th book, we learn that the Minister of Magic was required to tell the Prime Minister that he was bringing a dragon into the country. According to the Redditor, it seems weird that this rule would exist in the first place, as wizards do a lot of things in front of the Muggles without involving the Prime Minister. Furthermore, the Redditor also argues that there seems to be a strange lack of powerful wizards, apart from Dumbledore, of course. Could it be that the Ministry strictly regulates every spell and every wizard, and they ignore quite an advanced Muggle technology that could actually help them? The theory states that near the end of the Middle Age, the Muggle trials were more successful than the wizards, were led to believe, and that the Ministry of Magic was created to keep the wizards in check after the war. The government manipulates the wizards to think that they're the ones in power, when really they still have to coexist in a much larger world. And that's it for our video. Thanks for watching. See you next time.